Hi guys, welcome to LiveTutelage. Now in this session, we'll be discussing of something called exceptions. Okay, exceptions. What is an exceptions? Exceptions are an event, or I can even say it is an runtime error which always occur at a time of execution. Okay, so now there are actually two types of errors. One is a compilation time, the other is a runtime. The compilation means you can find it out here itself. Say for example, if I type something wrong here, immediately you will be able to find a red mark symbol, so which is a kind of a normal syntactical errors. Say for example, if I have forgotten to give semicolon. Okay, so if suppose I'm just writing the statement like this, println some text, and I have not given the open brace here. That means here you have an error. Immediately you can find it out, the red mark symbol here. This is something called a compilation error. You can find it out here itself and you can rectify it here. But sometimes what happened, so there will be situations, the error is not displayed here, but you are running it on the console, you have to face the error. So that kind of errors are nothing but exceptions. You doesn't know what kind of errors occurs at the runtime, right? So the best examples are, suppose I'm having a two integers a comma b, okay, and I'm going to divide a by b, and I want the result to be printed. But what happens, somewhere in my calculation, the b value is becoming 0, which I don't know. Or the b value that I have to give is something like the multiplication and the division or the operations of a certain numbers like this. Okay, certain numbers like this. If I have a very big calculations and I don't know the value of b here. But here if you observe, the value of b becomes 0, right? 0, which becomes an integer a divided by 0, which is an infinity, right? Which is called as divisible by 0, which we generally call that as divisible by 0. Okay, so such a kind of errors we may occur. So which you doesn't know in the compilation time, right? So somewhere when you are running your program at console, you may get the value as b as 0 and you will be getting an infinity. So that time what happens, your Java throws an exception, right? Which is not understandable for the user. So for the user, if I want to catch such a kind of exception, it is always good for a programmer to write, with a suitable code, always catching the exceptions. So for example, I say something like if a equal to some 10, and somewhere I am trying to print my value of system.out.println, which is a divisible by 0. See here, when I say a divisible by 0, I am not finding the red mark here. That means there is no compilation error. But at the runtime, I will get error. So what kind of error you will get? So such a kind of statements, it is a good practice for a programmer to always put in between two keywords, which is, the first is try keyword. So try is nothing but try these two statements, right? So try these two statements, assign the value of 10 and try to print this, and catch if you are having any exception, right? Catch if you are having any exception, and you just print the exception, println, you are doing operation for divisible by 0. You are doing an operation which is divisible by 0, right? So this error you are going to get it, right? So now what I done is, rather than just leaving these two statements, I am just keeping these two statements in two more keywords, which is a try. The try block will always try the instructions whatever we have given, and any error occurs. See, in this case we are getting a 0. So that will be catched by the catch keyword and through an object called exception. Through the object called exception E. Now we are just trying to print it. You are doing an operation for divisible by 0, and you just print one more print statement which will print the exception. What is the exception, right? Print it. Print off your E. E is an object. E is an object which will catch. See here, the E will automatically catch the exception generated by the system, and it prints a system defined message 1, and this is the user defined text. Now let me run my program and we'll see what happens. Now see here, so this is a system generated text which I have displayed here, the E. The E is nothing but an exception which is a catched by our Java program when you are trying this kind of statements, which is known as divisible by 0. And this is for user understandable message. This is given by the programmer. Say you are doing operation for division by 0. So in such cases, what happens? The programmer can understand easily, okay, something is going on wrong where the operation may have 0 in the denominator. So the programmer will go and check it out and rectify it. So this is always a good practice for the programmer to write the statements in between try and catch to catch the exceptions. Okay, so if I put it in comments, what happens? We'll see. So one exception will be generated by the system. This is generated by the system, your Java virtual machine of the exception of type E. What is this exception? Called divisible by 0. Right? Now this is one type of exception, and you have another situation like this. You may have another situation something like this. Say for example, integer b, I have another variable. I have something like 3 values is been assigned. So in my array B, this is an array B, I am having the 3 elements. That means this is 0 index, this is first index, this is second index. I don't have third index in my array. But somewhere I am trying to access the third index, okay? Third index. So this is the try block, and I am just trying to print, right, something like this. So print the array B of index 3, which is wrong, right? We have only 0, 1 and 2, right? Here no compilation error, but we will see what happens. So system.out.println. So for such a kind of exceptions, you have a catch. Okay, you have a catch. That catch is something like this. Catch of array out of bounds exception called E. Okay, that is called array out of bound exception, which is called E. Okay, so which is array out of bounds exception. So array out of bounds exception. Now if you want, you can just print the exception and just print it, which is array out of bounds exception. So if you want to say for example, if you want to print such a kind of exceptions, so you need to import a package called exception class, or without even importing that, you can directly go with a normal exception, which is the same exception, catch exception. Okay, now I'm just putting the comments of this and this. Now here I'm just trying for an array B. I'm having 3 elements, but here I'm trying to access the index third element, which is not available, and I'm trying to print the exception. And let us run this program, and now we just see here. the Java itself generated an exception called array index out of bounds exception. Array index out of bounds exception. Okay, so this is being generated by the catch function. So if you want, you can define your own exception or your own message for our understanding. You are accessing an element which is not out of range, You can print this by just running of your Java application. See, you are accessing an element which is out of range. So this is for our user understanding the message I am displaying. This is the system generated message which is array index out of bound exception, which is that. Okay, so this is about exceptions. So you have a different type of exceptions. Here I am just using a single word called exception. And I already told you can even use array index out of bound exception and java.lang exception and sometimes arithmetic exceptions. There are class not found exceptions. Okay, sometimes you are having the class name, you have given a different name, and you are trying to compile it with a different name. So sometimes the class is not available. So such a kind of exceptions are class not found exceptions. There are so many exceptions are available in Java. We can discuss in detail in later part of our tutorial. Okay, so this is a simple concept of trying statements and catching the exceptions in Java. Thank you.